Hello, hello, sweet friend. I'm delighted to have you here today with me because together we are going to learn from the amazing Megan Ruth Stoddard. Megan specializes in human design, and I won't steal her thunder by explaining everything behind human design because that's what we are about to learn. Human design can have an amazing and outstanding and remarkable impact on our lives. And I'm so excited to share this with you. So sit back, relax, and enjoy learning from the amazing Megan Ruth Stoddard, expert in human design.
Okay, yay, hi, all right. Whew, 5 minutes in and we're official. How do we feel about this? All right, so day 2. Okay, today won't last as long as yesterday, at least in my estimate. It should not take quite so long. Won't be quite so heavy, all on purpose, right? So, oh geez. Okay, yeah, so just a quick little thing. I'll give you guys a second to let people in. I will give you guys a chance to ask your questions here in just a second. Let me just share with you what we're going to be talking about today. So we are talking about authorities. So if you don't have your chart pulled up, pull it up, unless you already know what your authority is. And if that's the case, perfect. Oh my gosh, these buttons, you guys. I need to find the chat because I need your chat. Okay. Utilize the chat. I now have the chat open. We are good. We're good to go. So your authority in your chart is your soul's way of speaking to you through your body's intelligence. The way that I put it, so many of you know, if not all of you, know that I am a spiritual person. Whatever it is that you believe in, for me, the authority is how I hear the spirit speaking to me. It's how my soul speaks to me. It's just hearing what is correct for you. Okay. And you may have heard me speaking about this before. I can't remember if I touched on this yesterday or not, but none of us, no one was designed to make decisions with your mind. We were never meant to think our way to clarity. So we get to use our authorities. We experiment with our authority. We play with it. We get really comfortable with it so that we can trust our authority and live through that. So it's kind of like life goes through our strategy and then it comes to our authority to gain like ultimate clarity. And it's just beautiful. So, okay, but before we dive in, I do want to go ahead and give you a chance to ask whatever burning questions you might have for me from yesterday, or maybe you don't have any. Either way, what's up? What questions do you have? Or do you just feel totally caught up and ready to go? Let me know, because I'm not going to move forward until you tell me how you're feeling.
I have a question.
Yes.
So we talked about strategies yesterday.
Yes.
The strategy of a manifesting generator is to respond, and the strategy of the projector is to be invited, right?
Uh-huh.
How are those different? I know they're different, but they're also very similar.
Yes, they are. They totally are. And I think you might have had to hop off before I address this more. Oh, hi, Sheena and Laura are over on Facebook. Hi, you guys. So the difference, a lot of it is mostly that for generators and manifesting generators, we always have something to respond to. Like life always comes to us and we just are always constantly having things to respond to. Whereas for projectors, they more get kind of like bursts, like it comes and it goes, like it comes in waves sort of. So they'll get some invitations and then they'll have time to recoup, and then they'll get more invitations and have time to recoup because they don't have that sustainable energy. And those invitations are, what's the word I'm looking for?
Like more concrete kind of?
Sort of, yeah. It's more like, hey, here is a space for you to share your wealth of knowledge. It's a little more specific, I guess. LaFern, yeah, speak your wisdom, my projector.
Okay, so from a projector standpoint, and I don't know about manifesting generators because I'm not one of them, but from a projector standpoint, when it comes to being invited into something, this has always driven me nuts my entire life because I never understood why I would react the way I did. If I physically, in some way, get an invitation to go and do something, like on Clubhouse, if I don't get invited up on the stage, I will not raise my hand. If I don't get invited to do something, I won't do it. If I don't get invited to attend something, I won't go. So I need that invitation in order to reply to it. Whereas when you were explaining respond yesterday, for you as a generator, like you see a sink of dishes and you're like, oh, I can respond to that. Whereas if the dishes don't invite me, I'm not going to do them. Like I do them because I need to do them kind of thing. But for the most part, I don't ever have to do them because they won't invite me to do them. But, you know, it's kind of like, that's the difference between them. I actually need something or somebody to put that invitation out there in order to reply to it. Does that make more sense?
It's a little bit more specific.
Yep.
Cool. Cool. Awesome. Was that helpful then, Melissa? Cool. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that, LaFern. Cool. Any other questions? Anything else that came up for you guys from yesterday that you would like help with? Laura, my dishes don't invite me either. I know, I'm so lucky. My husband, the multitasker, he does the dishes almost every night. I got really lucky with that one.
I have a question.
Yes.
So as a projector, and I recognize like the whole receiving an invitation or responding or waiting for an invitation, and how I recognize like when I was young, I really needed that invitation. But now as I've grown, and you know, I kind of feel like I definitely feel like those waves of energy and like the bursts of energy. But I almost wonder, like, can I invite myself to do things? Is that well? Does that make sense?
That might make sense according to your authority. So I think as we dive into your authority today, that might give you some more clarity. Can you just tell me what your authority is real quick?
Splenic.
Splenic. Okay. Okay. So that's not what I was thinking it might be. So, so I would say is I think it depends. It depends on how you feel. Like if you try to invite yourself, does that feel correct for you? Like, have you practiced trying that and then seeing what happens? Generally speaking, no, you are not meant to invite yourself, because basically that means that you are inserting yourself into a situation where if you had waited for someone else to invite you in, what you bring to the table would have greater impact. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, and it can kind of come a little bit full circle. So if you wait for an invitation and you let it go through your splenic authority and it is correct for you, then like it might have been sort of a subconscious invitation from someone. Like someone might not like formally invite you, like, hi, Kylie, would you like to come join us in this thing? You might just feel sort of an energetic invitation. You know, that's why practicing this, you'll start to understand what it means when someone invites you or when space is created for you, like specifically for you and for your wisdom and your expertise. So getting really patient, I think, is going to be really helpful for you. Getting really patient.
I'm not good at patience, Megan.
Kylie, if you tell yourself that, then of course that's the truth. You know better. And that's exactly where this is going to come into play. As you practice your specific strategy, your specific authority, you're going to get more comfortable with it. And as you're more comfortable and familiar with it, then it's easy to be patient because you know exactly how you work. Yeah? Okay. Cool. So stick with me. This will make sense. I promise. It'll make your life so much easier. Okay, any other questions that came up for anyone, or shall we just dive on in? Not seeing any from you guys over on Facebook. And I think I have everything configured a little bit easier, so I'll see you on Facebook a little bit faster now. So, okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. Whoa. That got a little crazy. Oops. Okay. That's what I get for saying that everything was working smoothly. So let's start with our sacral authority. So there are, crap, now I have to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different kinds of authorities that can be a thing. Okay. Anyone here have a sacral authority? Leave it in the comments below. This will only be a manifesting generator or a generator if you have a sacral authority. Dive in, Sheena says. Perfect. Me, okay, my sister is a sacral authority, which I knew that. The question was, did I remember that? Cool. All right, so I also know that we have a few people watching the replay who was sacral. Heather, you think yours said the solar plexus? I think you might be right, Heather. I can't remember. If you can, pull up your chart again. Yeah, so the solar plexus is the emotional. Some of these have 2 names. So, okay, cool. So this one is the sacral authority or the generated authority. You'll hear it either way, okay? So again, this is exclusive to generators and manifesting generators. And just a few things about it. So this actually makes it really simple for you. So simple. You have a singular process when it comes to achieving clarity and making decisions, because this is both your strategy and your authority. Bam. So simple. So this is your only decision maker. And we don't need to spend a whole lot of time on this today because we talked about this in depth yesterday, right? Your sacral authority is your strategy to respond. It's the same thing. Sheena is also a sacral authority. Yes. So again, very much a gut feeling, real-time decision maker. You get to make decisions in the moment. You're not meant to achieve clarity, to discover your truth based on potential future circumstances, right? That was a big thing for me to learn with my strategy and to help my clients with, their authority of the sacral authority, is recognizing that trying to predict what decision you would make if something like this were to happen, that's living in anxiety. That is living out of your strategy. That is living out of your design. So when you can reel it back in and recognize that you have exactly everything that you need to make the correct decisions in the moment, then you can release any anticipation of what might be, or any wonders, thoughts about, well, what if I had chosen this instead? I would love to know, you sacral authority people, if you have ever struggled with that, with trying to anticipate decisions you might make in the future, or ruminating on decisions you've made in the past. Yep, I'm seeing head nods. Yeah, and I think that's super common. And now you get to understand that you don't have to, that's not necessary for you. Sheena, yes, I had to learn how to stop overthinking. Just listen to my physical signal. Yes, exactly. It's all of this is so much trust. There's so much trust that needs to be involved here. And how much more mental freedom and energetic freedom are you going to have when you recognize that you don't need to spend any mental time or energy trying to anticipate other potentials, right? Struggle more with future choices than the past ones. This is so good to hear. Yes. How do we manage future decisions? You trust your current self, Catherine. You manage future decisions when they are in your current reality, right? Like I can't decide. For example, when my husband was applying to physical therapy schools, my gosh, he applied to so many, you guys. He applied to like 19 or 20. And we were spending a lot of time like, well, if you get accepted here, then we could do this and do this and do this. Or if you get accepted here, we could do this and do this and do this. And that took so much time versus putting those applications out there and then just knowing, okay, those are out there. Now I get to focus on where I'm at right now, having the trust that when it is time to make a decision, I will have the capacity. I have that sustainable energy. I have that sacral authority to help me make the decision that is correct for me in real time. So let me know if that helps, Catherine. So again, it's a lot of those like vocal sounds, almost those primal sounds, right? Of Mm-hmm. Yep, that's good. I like that. That's correct for me. That feels really, really good. Yes, it does. Thanks. Okay, good. And again, I like to think of the sacral center as both a traffic light and the magic 8 ball, right? So with the traffic light, if you get that, that's good, then that's your green light. That's your go ahead. And again, because this is your authority, that's it. Once you get that green light, you can go. You don't have to wait for anything. As soon as you get that green light, you can go, which is so freaking cool. And if you get it no, that doesn't feel good to me, then pull out all the stuff, step on those brakes, find another option, wait to respond for something else. And if you get sort of an, I don't know, I'm not really sure, that's your magic 8 ball, right? That's the yellow light. You shake the magic 8 ball, and Sheena, I sigh a lot. It's my sign of frustration. Yes, that not self theme of frustration. That's your key to let yourself come back to this authority, to your strategy, right? And so if you get that hesitation, that I'm not sure, that means you either need to wait and try again later, shake up that magic 8 ball and it says try again later, or ask again another way, or have someone else ask it to you, approach it from a different angle. Sheena, it's like the beginning stage of my frustration. Sheena, I love that you recognize that that's like the beginning of your frustration, because that means you get to recognize, you get to sort of redirect yourself earlier on in the process. And that saves you so much time and energy, which is so powerful. That's the beauty of this. The more you get familiar with it, the more you get to use it for your benefit. I love it. So yeah, that's basically it for the sacral authority. And I'm going to just have one little tip for each authority today. So this is your little tip for my sacral authorities, similar to what I already talked about yesterday. Just practice letting yourself respond to yes or no questions, whether it's, asking yourself yes or no questions, or asking someone who you trust to continuously ask you yes or no questions. Just practice responding vocally. The more vocally you can respond, the more familiar it will become. And then at some point, you don't necessarily need to have that vocal response, but you will, just because it is such a natural aspect of it. This may not be my authority, but it applies to me so much. Maybe the time birth I got from the website is not accurate. Yeah, and Alma, you and I were just talking about this. So hopefully your mom will be able to get your birth certificate for you so that you can get a more accurate time of birth. And I'm also going to be practicing muscle testing more as well, so that I can provide that, because I feel like muscle testing would be more accurate than the website. So just putting that out there. Sheena, you like to visualize each side or option to test my response. Ooh, I like that. I like that as well. And that also has partially to do with like what your cognition is in your chart, which is super in depth. That's not something we will cover here even a little bit. But I kind of mentioned this yesterday with the affirmations that I provided for you. You receive those affirmations and then you decide how they make the most sense for you, whether it's meditating on them, visualizing them, speaking them out loud, whatever it is that works the best for you. Use that same method for practicing your sacral authority, right? So if visualizing is really powerful for you, try this what Sheena just suggested. Visualize the different options that you have and just see what they feel like in that sacral center. Yeah. So any questions for the sacral authority? Okay, and I will leave time at the end for questions again as well. So if anything pops up in the middle, go ahead and write it down for yourself or pop it in the chat and maybe I can address it in the middle, but I will have time at the end for you. Okay, my splenic authorities, raise your hands. Kylie, anyone else? Do we have any other splenic authorities? This one is so interesting. And all of these are so powerful. It's so cool. Mike is a splenic authority. Okay, cool. My brother-in-law. Sweet. So the splenic authority. And I forgot to show this, but I've got these all highlighted. So this one is the sacral center. So for you sacral authorities, this is what was highlighted. This is the splenic center. So this is your authority right there. All right, so the spleen, that's basically like the original center. So it's the center for basic survival. It's almost primal. It's very super intuitive. It's all about like, what do I need to do right now to survive, to make the right decision? What do I need to do right now? It's very timely, very, very much right now. It's an intuitive pulse. This is one that's like So, so important to make sure that you pay attention to what it feels like and looks like for you. Okay. It's a very, just like it says here, an instantaneous resonance or recognition. It's just this feeling. It's just a knowing that's probably kind of hard for you to describe to other people, right? Like it's just, you just know, you just kind of know. Yep. Yes. So first of all, don't feel like you have to try to explain it to anyone else because no one else might understand. And that's totally, totally fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You are functioning exactly the way that you were designed to, okay? And the potentially tricky thing, if you're not used to it, is knowing that this is only going to speak to you once. So you get that intuitive hit one time, and it might seem really soft and quiet, especially if you're new to it, if you're just starting to kind of start to recognize it. But the more you get comfortable and used to this knowing, the more it'll just be like, oh yeah, there it is. Okay, cool. Now I know. I just know. Right. And don't question it, because if you do, then you're going to wait for it to come again and it's not going to. So you have to have so much trust in this singular, powerful pulse, right? And it's powerful in the sense that it's profound, not powerful like it's a gut punch, more just like this is profound for you. You will know, right? 100%. And so it's just really, really important to stay in the present moment when you're seeking clarity. So kind of similar with the sacral authority. It's very, oh, someone's trying to join us. There we go. Okay. It's very easy to, well, I guess I shouldn't say very easy, but hi, Lynette, thank you for popping on. If you're trying to predict the future or ruminate on past choices, then you're not going to be right here, which means you're not going to be able to hear your authority speaking to you. You're not going to be able to experience that intuitive hit, right? So when it comes to making any kind of decisions, it's just so crucial to stay now. However that means for you, whatever that looks like for you, whether that's meditating, whether that's going on a walk, whether that's journaling, right? Or whatever that means for you, just staying really, really here, okay? Yeah, any questions on that splenic authority? I think that's pretty much, it's pretty simple. All of these authorities are so simple, and that's why we're going to be moving through this a little bit faster today, because they're pretty straightforward, which is awesome. Okay, and here's just my little tip for you splenic authorities. When you're, like I just mentioned, when you're trying to experience clarity, discover what's true for you, come to a decision, really just practice being present right now. Only focus on where you are right now, what you're experiencing right now. And as you do so, you will naturally start to experience that intuitive pulse, that truth, that knowing, right? That deep, the capital K knowing. Okay, so just practice that. Okay, emotional solar plexus people, where you at? This is me. I have an emotional solar plexus authority. Amtree, all right. I feel like I've got a few of you. Alma and Heather is as well, I believe, right, Heather? So this one, most people, 50% of the population has the solar plexus right here. This cute little guy, LaFern, alrighty. So this is the solar plexus center, and about half the population has this as their authority. We're an emotional bunch. Granted, we're all emotional. Is that the same thing as inner authority? Lynette, Lynette, you're a projector, right? I'm trying to remember off the top of my head now. Because that would be probably a self-project. Okay, so you're probably, that means self-projected, I believe. Yeah. That's the thing, like different places will phrase it as different ways. So I'm looking through my notes to make sure. Yes, that would be a self-projected authority for you. So On my chart I got from Jovian, it says inner authority. Okay, now I need to look at Jovian real quick. So Martha, you have a solar plexus. Oh, and Joel does too. Yes. Sheena, you are surrounded by emotional beings. Oh, yes. Okay, so Lynette, I see what you're saying. So where it says inner authority, what's next to that? Like, what is your inner authority? Because all of these, there's 7 different kinds of inner authorities. So there we go. Okay, yes, emotional authority. This is you. You popped on at the perfect time, Lynette. Great timing. All right, so the emotional solar plexus, it works in waves, emotional waves. And this is going to give, so, all of you fellow emotional people, emotional authority, this is going to give you a crap ton of self-permission, okay? And Laura, you have no inner authority. Ooh, okay, Laura, I will get to you. I got you, girl. So this is going to dramatically influence your strategy, okay? So we go through emotional waves. When you have that defined solar plexus, we go through regular waves, like up and down and up and down. And I know you know what I'm talking about. If you have a defined solar plexus, then that means, and we'll get into this more tomorrow, but that means you experience emotional energy in a very consistent way. Okay, so your wave might look different than someone else's. In fact, it almost definitely will look different than someone else's, but you start to recognize your own emotional patterns, right? So when it comes to making a decision, a bigger decision, like, again, I usually talk about this, but your authority is really only necessary when it comes to bigger things, right? Like bigger decisions, bigger truths, things in which you are seeking greater clarity, right? Like you don't need to use your authority to decide what to have for breakfast necessarily. Although I do use my strategy when it comes to like picking a movie or going out to eat. You know, my husband will ask me, do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want this? And I'll respond. So it can come in handy for smaller things, but don't feel like you need to use this for minor things. So when you're trying to make a bigger decision, you ride through the entire wave, however long it may be for you in that time, until you come to a place of neutrality. What's the distinction between a good mood and an emotional wave? So being in a good mood is a part of your emotional wave. So when you're in a good mood, you're more at the top, you're more at the peak. And those of us with an emotional authority often experience depression because we also go very much into the lows regularly, right? So this was something that actually helped me a lot before I even knew what human design was recognizing like, oh, I'm just right here right now. I'm not broken. Nothing's wrong with me. Nothing is even actually wrong. I'm just not feeling super happy right now. And that's okay. Right? So don't make any decisions when you're here. Don't make any decisions when you're here. You wait till you come through your wave into a neutral place. And because of that, we are not here to be spontaneous beings, which makes so much sense for me. I don't do great with spontaneity. Even when it came to making plans with my friends, if I had plans to do nothing, I still am this way. If I have plans to sit and do nothing at night and someone like an hour before wants to know if I want to do something that night, I'm gonna say no, because I'm like, you should have asked me this like 3 days ago. I needed time to process this decision. Where are the rest of my solar plexus people? Does anyone else do this? You need time to make a decision. You need prior advance. It explains so much. Yes, it does. And that's exactly how you're designed to work. And so you can even let people know like, hey, I love hanging out with you. I love doing stuff with you. Please give me like 3 days notice if you want to do something this weekend, you know, or whatever time frame feels right and correct for you. Because you're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. It's not that you don't want to be with people, right? We just need to have time, because sometimes, yes, I need to mentally prepare, because sometimes we might be up here when someone asks us if we want to do something. So we say, yeah, I totally am in. And then we come through our wave, we come to neutrality and we're like, oh, I actually really don't want to do that. And then we might experience, you know, you might have kind of fears of making decisions because you're like, well, but I made this decision this one time and it didn't work out for me. I really regretted it. It doesn't mean that all of your decisions moving forward need to be in accordance to that last decision. It just means that you need to make sure it's correct for you in this circumstance. Heather, but I do make a lot of spontaneous decisions like, hey, let's remodel the room next week and do all that stuff. So Heather, maybe that's part of the thing that has caused challenges that you've been going through. Does that kind of make a little bit more sense? Heather's in my membership program and she's been sharing things. So I'm thinking that might make sense for you. Maybe you need to pay closer attention to your emotional wave. Make sure you're not making spontaneous decisions when you're up here. Let yourself finish writing out the wave so that you come to a neutral place. I remember doing the same thing when it came to naming, well, both of our children really, but especially with our oldest. We were pretty sure what we were going to name her. But that night, my husband was like, okay, so are we going to name her Clara? Is that going to be her name? And I was like, I can't decide right now. My emotions are all over the place right now. Let me get some sleep, as much sleep as a brand new mother can get. Come to a neutral place, and then we can decide. Right? How do I find my emotional authority? Catherine, can you rephrase that question a little bit? I'm not sure I understand what you're asking exactly. Heather, okay, I'll think about that. I do think normally I need extra processing time. Yep, absolutely, absolutely. That's just how you were designed, and it's perfect. It's a superpower, okay? And the cool thing too is that we have a deep awareness in feelings, right? We have like a really big awareness regarding how we're feeling. We're not meant to be logical beings. So if someone wants you to explain, and this is true for most authorities, but if someone wants you to explain why you came to a decision, we're not making our decisions here. Our brains are not making the decisions. So someone else might not understand how we came to this conclusion. That's okay. They don't need to. They're not having your experience. They can have their experience. You get to have yours. So here is the tip of the day for my emotional authority, my solar plexus beings. Just really practice giving yourself more than enough time to come to a decision or to achieve clarity or to discover what is true for you. How do I tell if I'm a solar plexus being? Catherine, do you have your chart? You've pulled your chart, correct? So it should be on your chart. It will say what your inner authority, and then it'll tell you what your authority is. So release the expectation that you need to make a decision by a certain time. Like if someone says, I need your decision by this time and you need more, let them know. Most people are gonna be really accommodating. Like, okay, give me this much time, or start the process of this decision-making soon, right? Like don't put it off. Let yourself start letting it go through your body, being aware of it while you go through your wave so that when you come to this place of neutrality, you can have that clarity. Follow-up, dealing with my husband. He's Mr. Logic. If I present a logical argument, I can sway him. So I do that a lot and feel like I've tapped into a logical side I did not have as a young adult. Is that just a coping skill? I mean, we have logic. And I would have to look at your chart to understand a little bit more what's going on there. But we have logic and we can use logic. It's just not meant to be our decision maker, right? And then the thing to question there, Heather, is just, does that work for you? And does that work for your husband? If you have come through your emotional wave, you're on the other side and first you've gotten that green light from your sacral center, right? And then you've taken that decision through your emotional wave, you've come out here and it's still correct for you. Then go ahead and speak logic to him. If that helps you, and you're a manifesting generator too, correct? So speaking it out is going to clear your path anyways. So I'm using logic isn't necessarily a bad thing just in life. Like using logic can be helpful and full of wisdom, right? It's just not meant to be the decision maker. It's not what's going to give you clarity. It's not going to give you that knowing, right? I have to come back for the rest. Megan, you're amazing. Thank you. I love you, Sheena. The replay will be there for you. Okay, cool. Catherine, let me know if you found your authority. I would recommend going to jovianarchive.com to get it if you're having trouble finding your inner authority. It is sacral. Oh, okay, cool. Were you here? You were here right at the beginning, right, Catherine? So you heard me talking about the sacral aspect. Okay, cool. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So let's move on. Unless, did anyone have any other questions about emotional authority? Yeah, my body graph is not as easy. I like using mybodygraph.com for like the interactive aspect that it has, but Jovian Archive is a little bit more clear with the information. So that's why I like both. Okay, well, if anyone has questions about this, we will have time later. Okay, cool, Catherine. So, heart or ego authority? Who has this one? This one is, you'll only have this one if you're a manifestor or a projector. And I actually will be kind of surprised if any of you guys have this. This is super, super rare. This is not a common authority whatsoever. So I'll probably be relatively brief on this one unless any of you have this one. Actually, I don't know if anyone watching the replay will have it, so I won't be too brief. But this little guy here, this is the heart center or the ego center or the willpower center. See, all of these things have so many names. And like I mentioned yesterday, the names that a lot of these things have in human design don't necessarily correlate with like the traditional definition of the word. So like ego is often used in sort of a negative light, right? Like, oh, well, what an egotistical little person. Like, oh, well, they're just letting their ego lead. Or like even in like the spiritual personal development world, you know, we try to avoid making decisions with our ego. We try to avoid living from an egoic place. This is different. Okay. This ego does not equal that kind of ego that we hear often. All right. So for those who have an ego authority, so cool. It's so, so interesting. You don't really have to wait for anything to make a decision. So, and it'll be a little bit different for manifestors versus projectors. So I'll get to that in a second. But because this is the willpower center, basically you will just feel in your body if you have the appropriate energy for a certain commitment, you know, to make, you know, if you make this decision, are you going to be able to follow through? Are you going to have what you need? Right. So you just kind of have to wait until you're well rested, make sure that you are going through the proper cycles of work and rest so that you don't burn out. Okay. And then it's just, you just make it a habit of checking in with yourself, like with your body, before you jump into a commitment. Because you don't have to wait, you don't have to go through an emotional wave, you don't have to wait for a green light from your sacral center, anything like that, right? It's just you, baby, your willpower. So for manifestors, this is going to be expressed through the throat center. And so for this, it's going to be really important that you speak it out, right? So just like with informing, as you speak things out, you're going to hear yourself and you just let yourself speak out freely. You know, you don't edit yourself, you don't censor yourself, you just speak it out and then listen. You listen to yourself. Because this is where the ego speaks from. The ego, so for manifestors, if you've got this ego center connected to your throat, then your ego is being expressed through your throat, and that's where you will hear this center. And then you'll actually be able to hear it. And then for projectors, so again, you are first manifestors, they get to just initiate, they get to just do it, right? For projectors, you do still have to wait to receive the invitation, determine that it is a correct invitation for you, and then just really pay attention to how it feels in your body. Okay, it's kind of more of a physical sensation to make sure that you're going to have, again, the appropriate energy for whatever the commitment is, whatever the decision is. And it's just that knowing, within your body. And it doesn't sound like we have any ego authorities here, so likely won't be any questions, which is totally fine. If anyone watching the replay has this authority and has any questions, send it to me in an email. And I can certainly address it tomorrow. And then this is just the tip that I've already basically addressed. Just really get in touch with your body, hear yourself out, see what it feels like. What does it sound like? If you're a projector, like, what does it feel like in your body? Where exactly are you feeling in your body when something is true and correct for you? And what does it feel like when it's incorrect? And then for my manifestors, what does it sound like when it's correct versus incorrect, right? Just really play with it, get really curious. Curiosity is a really big thing in my world. If you've been around for a little bit, you know. Curiosity is the cure-all. I'm only kind of kidding. All right. Self-projected, a G center authority. Raise your hands. This one is only going to apply to projectors. And Laura, I'm going to be talking about yours next, so I'm almost to you. No one? Okay, so this is the G center right here. This is the identity center. And again, we'll be going deeper into centers tomorrow. This is kind of like your precursor, all right? This one is kind of, okay, well, so it's just with projectors, right? And it's a little bit similar to where you sort of have to see and hear your decisions reflected back to you through others. Oh, okay. So it's really important just to, express yourself, because it is the identity center. That G center is the identity center, self-projected, all of these terms that get used interchangeably. I know it can be kind of a lot sometimes, but because it is the identity center, your authority speaks to you through the act of expressing yourself. Oftentimes that's going to be through the spoken word. Okay, and sometimes it's going to be through observing others. So as you let yourself speak, again, speaking uncensored, speaking without editing yourself first, just speak it out and then really pay attention to what is coming out of your mouth. Really just listen to yourself, okay? And so it's really good to be around people who you really trust so that you can use them as sort of a sounding board, right? And to see how they respond and react to your actions. Okay, sorry, we've got Noah joining us. Hi, Noah. And so as you watch how other people are responding, again, it's kind of similar to my manifestors and manifesting generators. You're not asking for permission, right? You're speaking things out. You're being you. You're expressing yourself. And then just watching what's happening around you as you do so. That's what's going to sort of mirror back to you what is correct for you. Okay. It doesn't look like we have anyone on here who is a G Center authority, but if so, ask your questions now, or if you're watching the replay, hit me up. I'll answer your questions tomorrow. And this is my tip of the day for my G Center authority, my identity authority. Once you've received that invitation that is correct for you, just get really comfortable with vocally expressing yourself. The more you can use your voice to express yourself, the easier it will be. And then the more you'll be able to start, once you're really comfortable with that, then you'll start to be able to notice the more subtle nuances of how others are responding to your energy, to your expression of yourself. So just start with the voice. Once you get that invitation, talk it out. And just notice what happens. Just pay attention. Curiosity, man. All the curiosity. All right, mental projectors. So I know this is Laura. Do we have any other mental projectors? Or it might say, depending on which source you used for your chart, it also might say no authority or an environmental authority. I keep thinking I'm seeing new comments over on Facebook, but I think it's just my screen. So this is the only one where these will be defined and these will be your authority, which might seem contradictory to what I said earlier about how we don't ever make decisions with our mind, right? Oh yeah, Audrey, you're a mental projector. That is right. So cool. Okay, so let's talk about this. Woohoo, Lara! Okay, you still are not making decisions with your mind. You're not thinking your way to a decision. You're not using logic to logic your way to a decision, okay? So that is still correct, 100%. And again, this is only going to be true for projectors. Only projectors have this authority. And your voice is huge in achieving clarity. So your top one is white. Okay, totally fine. Sometimes they're both defined. Sometimes only one is defined. I just put both because it could be one or the other or both. So you're totally good, Laura. That is perfect. Your chart is exactly the way it's supposed to be. So this voice thing, you speak it out. You talk it out. Just like what I was talking about with the G Center. The G Center has a little bit more aspects involved. Oh, it says my internet is unstable. Am I still good? Oh, I can't see anyone's faces. Someone want to, oh, okay, there's Alma. Okay, cool. Thank you. So speaking it out, basically to just hear yourself, okay? And you're also going to be very, again, in some places it'll tell you that your inner authority is your environment. So because of the way that your open centers are configured in your chart, you can really sense your environment. And that's a really good way that you can get clarity by observing and experiencing and amplifying your environment, okay? So as you feel your way there, as you're letting something sort of simmer through your body, you've got this idea, this decision that you need to make, this question that you have, you just let it sort of move through your body as you are experiencing your environment. And if your environment feels really good, like if you're just feeling really good where you're at, then that thing is correct for you, right? Or as you speak it out and you're hearing it, you will be able to hear if it's correct for you, right? So your environment and your voice are really going to be your superpowers. That is your superpower, is feeling good in your environment and hearing if it's true for you, or vice versa. If you're in your environment and something just feels off, like you just can feel that something's not quite right. Can you hear me? That's my sacral center coming out. You might not have the vocal aspect of it that way, but you will speak out words, right? Yes, I have to externally process everything. Yes, it totally makes sense. Totally makes sense, right? That's so perfect. You're totally using it. So again, just really making sure that you're not trying to think your way to truth, that you're not trying to think your way to clarity. You're not trying to logic your way to a decision, right? So you project. So again, you're a projector. You're a mental projector. So you project your thoughts outward and then you just pay attention, right? So you project it out and you listen to what you just said. And it doesn't even have to be immediate necessarily. You can speak it out and then it's out there in your environment and you can just see how everything reacts to what you said, feel it in your body, feel it in your environment, because you're experiencing that environment on a really cellular level. So you will know if it feels good or not. Let me know if that makes sense for you. Oh, you guys, it is so hot in here. It's 77 degrees outside. I am so excited about this. I might actually have to turn on the air conditioning today. Okay, Audrey, Laura, does that leave you with any questions? Does that make sense for you? Yes, okay, awesome. So here is my tip of the day for you. Just make sure that you have at least one person, someone with who you can just talk something out. They're basically your sounding board, right? At least one person, maybe a group of people, a few friends, your spouse, whatever, just someone, a business buddy. Speak it out. Don't censor yourself. Don't hold yourself back. No questions. Okay, awesome, Laura. I'm glad it makes sense for you. So just speak it out and then just see what that feels like for you. Just practice being really intentional with this. It sounds like this is what you guys already do. So now you just get to be even more intentional with it and more aware that this is your superpower. So I love it. I love it. I love it. Lastly, man, it's not even 3 o'clock. We are busting through this. So this one, I don't believe we have any reflectors signed up still. If you're a reflector, let me know. I'm so interested to meet a reflector, mostly because I just haven't yet. But only reflectors have this as their authority. Do you see how their entire chart is white? 1% of the population right there. So I kind of discussed this yesterday because they have no authority. They have no authority, no inner authority. More so than what it says for you projectors with the mental authority, because you do have an authority. It's just not inside yourself. You have to externally process it, right? But for my reflectors, you are lunar beings. You don't have your own authority, which is perfect because now you just get to be aware that you don't have to try to feel your way to a decision. You don't have to try to think your way to a decision. You don't have to ride an emotional wave. You don't have to wait for a green light from your sacral center. You don't have to listen for that intuitive hit from your spleen, right? None of that. Don't try to do what everyone else is trying to do because you're not designed that way. So you don't have to try to figure out what's correct for you, right? You get to live by the moon. You get to wait 28 days to make big decisions. Again, don't wait 28 days to decide what to eat for breakfast because you will starve. That's not as big of a deal, okay? I know we already know this. I just feel like I need to make sure no one accidentally starves themselves. As you wait those 28 days, you just continue going about your life, keeping this decision, this question, this circumstance in your awareness, and just pay attention to your environment. Just pay attention to what you are amplifying back out into the world. And just get really curious, get really playful, get really comfortable in this 28-day span, right? Just knowing like it's going to take me some time, and that's perfect. I get to take time. I don't have to try to live my life according to social norms. I don't have to make this decision in 3 days, you know, and you can tell people about it too. So again, you need this long to decide whether or not to accept a job. Let them know. Just say, hey, I know that this is going to be best for both of us if I can have 28 days to make this decision. Can you give me that time? And more often than not, people are going to be accommodating, because if you're living in your strategy, you're living true to your authority or lack thereof, you are going to be firm in your energy, and others are going to want to be accommodating to you because you are showing up as you, fully you, right? And think about it. Think about someone who you have interacted with before who just totally shows up as them. Don't you just want to be around them more? Like, don't you just want to be in their flow and allow their flow to continue? So this is true for all of our authorities. The more we stay true to our authority, you know, first starting with our strategy, letting it come through our authority, the more we do this, the less resistance we have in our life. Because as we are in our power, in our superpowers, in our alignment, other people want to be accommodating to that, because we all want less resistance. So when we witness someone else having a life of less resistance, having a life of flow and ease and alignment, we're like, oh yeah, that's good. We should all be kind of accommodating to this. And that's why we all have different kinds of authorities, so that we can play off of each other. Doesn't that make so much sense? Sounds like monthly meal planning would be good for lunar authority so that they can eat breakfast every day. That's so true. That's so true, Amtree. That's perfect. So if I have any reflectors watching this, just practice sitting in a calm meditation, whatever that looks like for you, whether that's legit meditation or on a walk or, you know, driving in your car or journaling, scripting, visualizing, whatever. And just appreciate that you get to have time. You get to take the time for clarity to come, right? Just trusting all of these. The tip of the day for all of us is to trust. Trust the crap out of yourself. Trust that you were designed this way for a very specific purpose. And again, I'm probably going to put this in every day. I did yesterday, put it in today, probably will put it in tomorrow. Your chart is only filled with strengths, only good things. I once did a reading for a client who she was a little bit nervous because she said that she has had people like read her astrology chart for her before. And she had been told that her and her spouse shouldn't be together because according to their astrology signs, they aren't a good fit. And I take issue with stuff like that, because if someone is telling you that something about your chart means that you're going to have a really hard time with something, or this is going to be really sucky for you, or they try to bring it down, they're not working in your favor, right? There are not self-themes. There are areas for conditioning everywhere in a chart. There's always opportunity for something that is not serving us, something that's disempowering. It doesn't matter what your chart looks like. This is life. We are human beings. There's always going to be opportunity for something to be disempowering if we're living out of alignment. But your chart itself in its wholeness is a strength. Your chart is a superpower. So the more we come into alignment, like every time I look at a chart, I see all of these things. They're only good. They're only serving you. So the more you live in alignment with all of these things, the juicier life is, the better it feels. So freaking good. So that is all of the authorities, all 7 authorities. Does that leave you with any questions? And you can ask questions about yesterday, so about type, strategy, authority, any of that. Or did this provide you with some insight? Does this just totally make life make more sense for you? How do you see yourself applying this more? And if you're on Zoom, you're welcome to come off of mute for a minute if you would like to as well, if that would be easier for you. Did I just blow all of your minds? You're all so quiet. Okay, well, sweet. I will let this just kind of ruminate in your brains and in your bodies and wherever your authority is, right? It's borderline creepy how accurate this stuff is. How do we know this from my birthday? I love you, Audrey. I know, it's crazy, huh? And that's why I used to think this stuff was like wild, because I'm like, it sounds like you're like trying to read my mind or trying to tell my future, you know, which sounds hokey. It sounds totally hokey. But, and this is where like spirituality comes in for me. So take this as whatever it means for you. But for me, I very much believe that, like I firmly believe, I feel like anyone who is a mom feels this way. We are born exactly where we're supposed to be born at exactly the moment we were meant to be born. Like if you've had a baby, that baby did not come a second sooner than they were going to come, right? Like they came exactly when they were supposed to be here. So I just very firmly believe that we were sent here. We were sent to be born on this planet where we were born so that we could have all of these particular strengths, all these gifts, all these innate talents, this particular energy, so that we could be a part of the collective to do our part. We are each here for a specific purpose. We each have our own gift to lend to the world, right? Whether that's for our own, just like for our own little family or on a larger scale, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how big of a scale. Your impact is your impact for a reason.
I have a question for you, Ms.
Yes,
Megan.
Lefern. Yeah.
Okay, this is about my daughter.
Okay.
You were going on about the exact place that they were born. She was born in the car on the freeway. How would that impact her chart? Because I haven't bothered to look, because I'm a little scared to look to see how creepy accurate it is.
So I guess I don't know. So it just means that wherever she was born, that's what her chart is based off of. Like that's where she was supposed to be born. So whatever city she was closest to, you know, that's how it's going to be affected. Yeah, she was supposed to be born right there. Man alive, you are a champion.
Fastest delivery ever, 20 minutes. It was good.
I literally
That's how long my labor was.
My labors are like 2 years long.
Yeah. No, my first was 4 hours, and he was induced. And then she came in 20 minutes. Because my contractions didn't start until I sat in the car. And then I was at a 10. So I was like, that's awesome.
It was time for her to be here.
I should have just stayed home. But all right, that's all I had. Sorry.
No, don't apologize. That's crazy. I love it. Heather's everyone doing their whole family to come up with strategies for interactions. Seriously, yes, I have all of my family's charts on my phone and I'm constantly looking at them. Like there's always things that make sense. And like my girls, one of them is almost 3 and then my oldest will turn 6 this summer. So they're young, but I'm still like, I'm learning like how we balance off of each other's, you know, there's certain things where we might kind of like, oh, we have been crashing heads here because we haven't been aware. And now that I know, I'm like, oh, this is how we can actually make sense together. It can make sense together. It doesn't have to be like this all the time. We can make sense. So good. And that's something that actually might be really helpful. I don't know if any of you have checked out the link I sent out for the mastermind, but that's something that might be really helpful if you join the mastermind, is being able to apply this information in even more depth to your relationships, you know, with your families, with your loved ones, with coworkers, you know. Yeah, because there's so many intricacies here that come into play. And I'm gonna share more about the mastermind tomorrow. So I'll share more in detail. I'll share some slides on that when we're done with the training. I wanted to wait till then so that you have time to let all of this move through your body so you can experience and process all of this information. So if you have any questions about the mastermind, I would just say save it until tomorrow when we're done so we can focus on these things for now. So if any of you have any questions that come up about strategy, your authority or your type, you can email me, you can find me on Instagram, you can come into the Facebook group and post them there. I would say if you feel comfortable, post them in the Facebook group, because if you have a question, then it will almost definitely apply for several other people as well. So it's a safe space. It's a really good, I monitor it pretty closely to make sure that we don't have any weirdos or creeps in there. So it's a really good group. I love my Facebook group. I love everyone in there. So if you're not already in there, make sure you go join. And okay, well, if no one else has any other questions, we can go ahead and sign off for today. I actually want to get a picture. I'm trying to, let's see, was authority all you talked about today? Yeah, yep, Lynette, today was all about authority. Okay, I'm gonna take a little photo. If anyone, you don't have to, but if anyone wants to come onto video, I will take a picture. You're totally fine, Lynette, don't even worry about it. And like, I'm sending out the replay. Replays will be available until sometime next week. So, okay, I'm gonna take a picture. Everyone smile. You guys are so awesome. Thank you so much for hopping on, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Oh, it's always awkward when I say bye and I can't end right away.